Floyd Shivambu is part of building the credibility of the Umkhonto weSizwe party.
Yes.
And where I'm going with this is that there have been many instances where some would say, sure, I mean,
but
Bushiri aside, no.
I don't know if there's any wisdom as well to want to speak about what issue when there's so many other things to speak about.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going with it, if you let me finish my question.
Okay,
because there have been many instances where there seems to be internal ructions, and you've even detailed when you were still in the Youth League, you detailed each year of the ANC up until 100 years. I mean,
yes.
Right now, where the MK party is, you're just a little over a year old, and there's been issues in Mpumalanga between Mary Badi and Busisiwe Mkhwebane. There was that social media outburst from Dudu Zuma against you. And more recently, what many have termed the unceremonious removal of Mzwanele Manyi, by the way. What would you say to the potential voter about this? And to make them believe that these are just teething problems, it's nothing to really signal that there's an implosion on the horizon.
Yeah, so let's categorize the issues. So there are issues which are issues of disciplinary inquiry internally. So as a Secretary General, I can't publicly communicate or speak about issues that are subject of disciplinary inquiry. It's not allowed inside the organization itself, even in a basic legal principle and standard all over the world. There are certain things that you do not want to divert or date the intention of by making unnecessary reflections on that. So the issues of the outbursts that you've mentioned is an issue of disciplinary inquiry, is not an issue that we can talk about.
And Mzwanele Manyi, what happened there? It seems so out of it. And a lot of the things, so perhaps you can appreciate there's a lot of things that you deal with internally and you say you can't share.
Yeah.
But when you wake up on a Tuesday and there's no ability, and I can vouch for the fact that there was no proper communication until, there's Speaker Togo Titiza confirming it officially. I mean, it felt unceremonious. What happened there?
No, look, so the leadership that is deployed in Parliament gives the leadership collective of the national officials of Umkhonto weSizwe constant reports and review on who they believe should play which roles at what certain periods of time.
Yeah.
And not because of anything else that Mzwanele did wrongly. There was a firm
his relationship with Dr. John Hlophe.
Yeah, that is not an issue. Like, if anything, the era of governance of Umkhonto weSizwe and participation in Parliament was beginning to gain stability, which we thought should be enhanced in terms of how it gets to be reported. Because in the past, we never used to have consolidated reports from the 7 provincial legislatures where MK is represented, and from the councils where Umkhonto weSizwe has got councillors, and from the National Assembly, National Council of Provinces. And both the Deputy President, who is the party leader in Parliament, and Mzwanele were able to have a system of systematic reporting about all the public representatives of Umkhonto weSizwe across board. But there was consideration, not because of any wrongdoing, that let us supplement the parliamentary caucus through the designation of Colleen Makubela as a chief whip. And that will add into the work of the organization. Mzwanele will be assigned different responsibilities within the National Assembly, and he will continue to excellently play a role as a public representative.
Would you agree with the analysis that I've solicited, that, the somewhat what he described, Dr. Ngam Timka described as zigzagging and not having elective conferences, so not having an elected leadership, means that every time there is a difference between a Floyd Shivambu and a Zianda, it is now turned into almost a leadership contest, depending on who can whisper the better murmurings into the MK party president's ear.
Is
that a fair characterization?
No, I don't think it's a fair observation. In all honesty, elective conferences, if we were to use the existing other political parties that have got existing political parties, the existing political parties that have been using elections as a determination of how leadership should be chosen, majority of times have not produced quality. They've produced those who are master factionalists and have money to buy delegates to conferences.
How would you characterize your leadership style as Floyd Shivambu, the Secretary General of the MK Party, in the context of lots of talk about you being under fire in KwaZulu-Natal and you contending with tribalism and hence this constant back and forth about a Floyd Shivambu who's on his way out?
I've never had any encounter of tribalism.
From your rank and file?
No, I have never. From rank and file, from the leadership of Umkhonto we Sizwe, I've never got to have such an encounter.
You would say then that you have the respect of the rank and file, but do you also have the same in the leadership structures, i.e. what's your relationship with Dudu Zuma now? We only got to experience what took place on social media, but like you keep saying, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Are you okay? We've seen you at events together since then, so what's it like now?
There's never been any hostility. And there's never been any political difference that I'm aware of. Because whenever we interact, it's my sister, my brother, everything is going well. That has been a consistent relationship since I joined Umkhonto we Sizwe.
Let's talk about the hostilities perhaps then between the EFF and the MK Party. You've been declared, one of their enemies, but you are consistent with your line about uniting progressive forces. How would you go about repairing, restoring and mending that relationship? Is that something that you also have as your radar? Secretary General to Secretary General with a Marshal Dlamini, what's taking place there? Because it does have the potential to impact the Progressive Caucus and this overall objective that you also said you left the EFF for to attain.
No, look, the most dynamic and politically sound thing which the MK did, which we also made a plea that all other political organizations should do, we sat in a meeting of the National High Command to begin to characterize the domestic and global balance of forces. So in our characterization of the domestic balance of forces, we then also got to characterize all the political formations and role players in South Africa. We did characterize to say that the ANC, although it is captured by the white capitalist establishment, is being puppet mastered by Stellenbosch in terms of what it has to achieve. We say that we can't categorize and define the ANC as an enemy force. We say it's a strategic opponent which is contested. It's a contested opponent. Mm-hmm. So there's a difference between an enemy and an opponent. Enemy you have to crush. You must eliminate completely. You don't talk to enemy. You don't have any engagements at all. But a contested opponent, you contest its ideological character and form and its politics in general so that it then drifts closer towards what you stand for as an organization. And then our characterization of the EFF is not an enemy force, it's not even an opponent. We say it's a potential strategic ally which shares the same values and principles with Umkhonto we Sizwe by and large. And that we know because Umkhonto we Sizwe and the EFF are co-signatories of a charter that unites the Progressive Caucus in Parliament. And that charter speaks politics as to what we stand for. We agree on redress of the imbalances of the past. We don't think what we have now is the status quo must continue forever. We agree that the land must be reclaimed and be given to particularly those who were excluded by apartheid and colonialism.